Good evening, all. I'm not
Hello, hello.
dead. Good afternoon, and no, good morning, sorry. And welcome for our, oh gosh, we've got about 5 shows on today, and thank you very much. Don't know what's wrong with me this morning. I woke up, and next minute I was in a bit of a daze, and next minute I was falling asleep. And I don't know, guys. Anyway, please, if you've got any questions for Gina, please put them in the left hand column. If you're listening on the radio, then please make sure that you put them in the right hand column. It's so easy, guys. It's really good. Welcome to our Saturday show this morning. And I've got Gina here. Hello, Gina. How are you?
Hi, I'm very well, thank you. Yourself?
Good, good. Thank you. Firstly, thank you very much for coming on.
It's
And
okay, absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me.
now I want to talk to you about your story, really, about your multiple sclerosis, and tell us a bit about yourself.
Well, I am a 50-year-old mother of two teenage boys. I have a lovely Labrador called Sophie, and I am a keen Toastmaster. So I have an ambition for getting on a TEDx stage at some point, and certainly speaking about things that I've learned about, because over the last 5 years or so, I've been on a very inward journey, a bit of a spiritual awakening, I suppose you'd call it. And that was probably preceded by the diagnosis of multiple sclerosis. So I was diagnosed in 2009. But as with many people who've got diagnosed with this type of condition, it was probably there in the background a long while before the diagnosis came along. But yeah, that eventually led me to just seeing the world in a bit of a different way, I suppose. So, oh, you've gone.
No, I'm still here. I'm still here.
All right,
And
okay.
I like it what you said. In one of your phrases here, it says, "True, true freedom comes from honesty."
Yes. So this is a bit of a revelation in my life when I recognize that I think a lot of the time we're not honest. And I say we as the general collective we, that certainly was me. I wasn't honest for a good point in my life. I wasn't honest about what I wanted. I wasn't honest about, what was important to me. I didn't have that inner awareness. And I think by not being honest with myself, I then didn't have the assertiveness, I suppose, to say to others what I needed and wanted, because I didn't have a clue, because I hadn't asked myself the questions. So,
Oh gosh. Okay. And also you say you're a spiritual person. Tell us about that.
well, I think I'd always, in all my life, I'd always thought there was something sort of a bit bigger than just us. There had to be more than what I just saw. However, I never really subscribed to any religious, organized religion. I felt although I had been to church and I'd been to Sunday school, so I knew the teachings. We'd been brought up sort of Christian, but my mum was a Protestant or Church of England, and my dad was a Catholic, and so when they got together, they decided to let us make up our own minds. And so I never really subscribed to it, but I was open to something else being there. And after I'd had the diagnosis of MS, and I went on the drug modifying therapy for about 5-6 years, and then my symptoms started to get a bit worse, irrespective of what I was taking. So I started looking, do what anyone does these days, to turn to Google. Of course, back when in 2009, Google was not quite as the go-to place as it is now. But yeah, and I looked about for other answers and discovered that actually the things that I'd been told. So I've been told I've got an incurable disease. I've been told that it was probably going to get worse. And I'd also been told when I asked the question, there was nothing that I could do about it personally. And when I started doing some research and sort of stretching those beliefs a bit, I realized that actually that wasn't true for everybody. There were people and are people that are living symptom free, you know, after a diagnosis and after being quite severely disabled, and now they're living symptom free and they're not taking meds. So there are answers. So I think once I discovered that, I came across the works of George Jelinek, who wrote Overcoming Multiple Sclerosis, and he talks about, you know, diet and lifestyle, meditation, and from him, I've just read more and more and more, and spoken to people, and I have a little Facebook group called Managing MS Naturally. So if there's any of your audience that have multiple sclerosis or any other autoimmune disease or any other incurable disease and are open to actually discovering what you can do about it, then that's a good place to start. There's a lot of interviews with other people that are making their own way.
We've got it on screen now for you, so we're telling everybody
cool.
now. All right.
Nice. Yes. Yeah, perfect.
So because many people who spiritual, it's like I'm a Christian, so there's a lot of things in my life that's happened to me with illness and stuff. And sometimes when we are ill or when we got incurable diseases, we turn to an higher faith, say. You know, we either turn to God or we turn to something.
Yeah.
You know, and but when we haven't got no illnesses, we don't turn to nothing.
Well, I suppose that depends. It depends on your practice, because a spiritual practice is just that. So whether it's, you know, in the confines of an organized religion, or whether you just do your own praying or meditating or somehow, and I think it's that connection, isn't it, with something that's more than just us. It's understanding or trying to make sense of when things don't go right in life, and whether, you know, if you've been diagnosed with an illness or not, there's always stuff in your life that doesn't go quite right. You know, nobody's had it. Nobody gets to sort of our age and not have some shit go on in their lives, do they? And it's making sense of that, I think. Yeah. And that's what spirituality is doing, and actually recognizing that actually we don't see the big picture. We don't see all the connections, how we're all interlinked. And I'm learning to trust, I suppose, and have faith. You said the word faith, but yeah, have faith that actually things do happen for a reason, and at somewhere down the line it is all going to work out, and life is good, and it's seeing the good stuff, isn't it, in amongst all the bad.
Oh yeah. Let's go back a bit when you kind of like was diagnosed. When you got diagnosed, how did you feel? Did you feel that you ate the world? Do you feel that everything else around you were kind of like you just felt like giving up? How did you feel?
To be honest, I think by the time I got diagnosed, it was a relief, because my original symptoms were numbness. So I wasn't in pain. I could still walk, although it was proving a bit more difficult. But I got numbness all the way up my legs and in my hands, and I wasn't driving because I couldn't feel the pedals properly. So it was, it was quite severe. But I'd gone to Google and I'd looked up, and actually multiple sclerosis had been in it. But in my head, I'd got a life limited. I'd got a brain tumor, and I'd got 6 months to live. So actually being diagnosed with MS was a bit of a relief. And also, by the time I'd actually received the diagnosis, because I don't know if you know much about relapsing remitting MS, but it sort of has a flare up and then it repairs itself and it goes back into submission again, and then you can have another flare up. So I was obviously in a flare up with my numbness, and it had sort of disappeared. So by the time I'd actually got my diagnosis, I was actually feeling okay. So it didn't come as such a shocker, but I've heard, I've spoken to hundreds of people with their diagnosis story, and some of them are beyond shocking. Being told to get used to life in a wheelchair and go and sort your effects out basically, and your life is over. And So one of the things I talk about quite a lot is the idea that when you get a diagnosis, it's also delivered with a big dose of fear. And anybody who knows anything about what goes on in your body when you're in fear, you get that fight or flight kick in. Your body goes into a bit of a stress place because it's getting ready to fight whatever, whatever danger is out there. And it doesn't then give the energy to your immune system. So when you're given a diagnosis, you're not in a place to heal because you're in such a place of fear. And I do find it a little bit frustrating that, I've sussed this out and I'm no doctor and I'm not even a great researcher. But it seems so obvious to me that actually if we delivered a diagnosis in a different way, then actually the outcomes will probably be a lot better.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear this. I do a lot of podcasts and stuff on the radio, and I hear this all the time. It's the way they explain things and what they do. And if they say it in a proper way where people can understand and everything, I think it's going to be much better. Um, when you were told about, did they tell you you got 6 months to live?
No, not at all. She did. In fact, my neurologist was quite gentle. She told me, that it wasn't, it wasn't a terminal thing. It was a lifelong condition. It wasn't curable. She did tell me it was incurable. She did tell me it was likely to get worse, but that's not necessarily the case. She did say I wouldn't die from it. Although people do die from complications from it, from various different things, but I don't think you actually die from MS as such. It's and when I asked her, was there anything that I could do? Could I change my diet? Could I do anything like that? And she said no, there's nothing. I just almost just wait to see for doctors or scientists to come up with a cure. And that I found out wasn't true as well, because diet is one of the massive things that we've all got control over, that we can all change. It might not be easy, but it's possible. So I've been on a bit of a diet journey as well, trying to suss out what's right for me, because so far I've come across 10 different diets that have been
Oh,
proven
don't
to
talk
help.
about it. Don't talk about it. I do obesity. I'm an obesity campaigner, and I've done TV, radio, and please, let's not even go there.
No,
All these diets, and after these diets are just money spinners to make money and everything. And
well, I think there's a common theme, and the common theme is really stay away from processed food, eat as cleanly as you possibly can, and and eat mindfully, I suppose, is the way. Just eat carefully. Don't sit and munch your chips in front of a TV. So sugars is obviously, if you're eating a lot of sugar, that's like bad for the inflammation. So
yeah.
it's definitely worth looking at. But you're right, you have to find your own sort of journey and decide what's right for you, because there is no one diet fixes everybody.
Oh
They
no, no, I
work
do.
out
Yeah, I
their
know
own.
that. Yeah. So you're a mindset and a life coach. Explain to us about that.
Well, the mindset part of it is, and I think MS has taught me a lot about that as well, is it's very easy to go into victim mode even, and to feel like everything in your world is going wrong. It's like, and asking yourself, if you're asking yourself questions like, why is this always happening to me? That's a good indication that you would benefit from a shift in mindset, because I'm able to now move from this, like, everything's going wrong, why is everything happening to me, to actually everything is going right, and I can just got to see the right stuff. And it takes practice, it takes daily practice, which is where I come in and help my clients to actually take a little shift and have can you see it this way, can you look at it this way, and if you look out the window, do you see clouds or do you see the sun sort of shining through? It's that glass half empty half full type thing. But it's recognized that people are happier if they're more optimistic and if they're able to shift their perspective, and that's all it is. And we can all do that. That's possible for everybody, no matter how ill they are, how poor they are, how whatever. It's possible to shift your perspective and see the world through a slightly different lens, which just makes you feel better.
It certainly does. It certainly does. What do you do? What do you do as a coach for yourself? Because you probably get a lot of people kind of like telling them your problems, but with MS, you've got your problems. So how do you deal with your problems?
Oh gosh, well, I've got a whole toolkit of things that I use. So I meditate daily, at least once a day, sometimes a bit more. I'm an avid journaler, so if I'm feeling off, I will write down the question and write down the answers in my journal. I've got a coach myself, so I've got a couple of coaches that I work with, because I think once you've worked with a coach, then life just seems that much more enjoyable. I don't know why anybody would. So if anybody's interested in finding out what it's like to work with a coach, then I do offer the first session for free, so you can come along and just have a chat and see how that feels.
We'll get onto all that in a minute about your business and your advertising.
Cool. Yeah, and I'm lucky because now I'm in the coaching industry. I've got a lot of coaching friends, so we have my new buddies that I speak to quite regularly. We coach each other, and which is great.
Brilliant.
You always have your ups and downs. It doesn't matter how much work you do. It's it's not all perfect, is it?
No. So with MST, and you've got 2 teenage boys, is that right?
Yeah. So I've got a 14 and a 16-year-old. And well, I've got them part-time actually, because me and my ex co-parent quite successfully. So 2 weeks on and 2 weeks off. And at the moment, actually, I've got my youngest one with me, and my oldest one's coming back with me today. So yeah.
Oh. And the trouble is, I bet sometimes that's a bit difficult, isn't it? Kind of like having your teenage boys around.
Well, it is what it is, isn't it? It's like no, they're quite nice to have around, really. And let's face it, most of the time they're not really interested in what I'm doing. They're more interested in what's going on their screen, or they're hanging out with their mates. So yeah, doing what teenage boys do.
Right. Okay. Good. And also, you're Toastmaster. Is that right?
That is right. Have you heard of Toastmasters?
Well, I've heard of. Is that Toastmasters when they do weddings and stuff? And
yeah, but well, yeah. Toastmasters International is a non-for-profit organisation that helps people with their public speaking and leadership skills. So there are clubs literally all over the world. I've done a lot of personal development and a lot of courses and different trainings, and by far Toastmasters is the most cost-effective way of improving your public speaking. You get to practice, you get feedback, you're part of a massive great network of people that are all keen to support and help each other. And there's I live in Rugby in Warwickshire, and there's a couple of clubs nearby, but the one that I'm a member of is Godivers, which is in Godivers Speakers in Coventry. So and also Pegasus Advanced Speakers, which I think is all online at the moment, but it was Milton Keynes. So
all right, okay, great. And what's it? So tell me more about your business then.
So I had a bit of one of those epiphany moments, probably about 5 years ago, when I was going through what I now fondly call my vortex of shit, whereby everything seemed to be going wrong. So I was, my relationship was on its last legs. We'd literally got no money. I was in a job that I was really, really miserable at, and it was making me iller. I was going through a severe MS relapse. My dad was dying. It was just like, yeah, come on, anything else can be thrown at me. Let's just throw it at. And in amongst all that, I I did some EFT. I don't know if you've come across emotional freedom technique, which is it's a modality of healing, which you can work with a practitioner, but you can basically do it yourself, and it's tapping on different points. You've seen that before. So I did some. I worked with somebody and did some stuff around that, and that just, I don't know, cleared. It does exactly what it says on the tin, I guess, and just cleared some of that emotion which was blocking my way forward. And I just thought, I'm not going to work in, I'd been so miserable in my job, but this was my third job that I'd been miserable at. For the last 20 years of working, I was pretty miserable and spent more time moaning about my job than I did probably doing it, if I'm honest. So, I took the leap. And managed to get some time off sick with my MS. So used that card very well. And it felt a little bit like I got visited by a guardian angel, because my new boss came in and basically told me, Gina, it's shit here. Take as much time off as you possibly can and go and do what you want to do. So that's what I did. So that's, and it was just, I didn't know what I really wanted to do. And this, I think I watched it was a YouTube video. I think it was a Tony Robbins or something like that. And I just thought, yeah, that's it. That's what I want to do. And I'd actually done some training for it already. I'd already dipped my toe in a little bit over the previous sort of 20 years and not really took myself seriously. So it was time to do something different.
Good. And how is it now? How is it?
Well, business is still tough going, I have to say. What I discovered, because I'd never been an entrepreneur before, I'd always shied away from that. It felt like too much hard work, and I wasn't wrong. But what I've recognized is it's not enough to be a good coach. You've then got to learn to market yourself, to sell yourself. You've got to be your IT person. You've got to be your admin person. So if I'm being really honest with you, I'm still working it. I'm still building my business. I'm still navigating my way. And I live by the mantra, the only way to fail is to give up. And I see I see the opportunity whenever I can, and try not to fall down that hole that I've been in for, was in for quite a long while. So,
well, you got up that hole, didn't you? You found a ladder, or you found somehow to get up of that.
Yeah, definitely.
That hole, and now you're on the right path and everything, and you're doing well. Let's take some questions. Maxine. Oh, hello. Maxine. Hi, Gina. Can you tell me what's it like to live with MS? I bet it's really difficult.
Well, there are difficulties, yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. And I don't know if you know anything about MS, but everybody's symptoms are different. So the symptoms that I experience is my mobility is challenged. So my balance is a little bit off. I walk with a stick. I mean, I can walk. I took the dog for about a half-hour walk this morning, but I wouldn't be able to walk very far without a stick. It really does support me. And also I have a bladder problems, which means I need to be racing to the toilet every I don't know, it feels like a lot, but then, I also recognize that I'm lucky I'm not in pain. There's some people that severe pain. Some people can't walk at all. Some people are blind. There's very a common symptom is the sensory type things, so the numbness, tingling. People get like shooting pains up and down, a bit like electric shocks. I get a couple of them, but they're not too bad. So, but I guess living with it, you just get on, don't you? You just get on. Yeah.
Rachel. Hi, Rachel. Could you ask Gina? Does she have a book out? And if she has, how do I get hold of it?
Oh, thank you very much. Well, interesting you should say that. I don't have a book out at the moment, but I am involved in a collaboration project, which is the book's coming out in November, and it's called Shift. And it's one of these collective where they've got 25 different people who've all experienced a shift in perspective in some way over their lifetime, and they talk about it in this book. So it's 25 very inspiring stories that you can just pick up and take 5 minutes to read and sort of give you that little spring in your step and realize that actually, you know, good things can happen and good things can change. So I'm sharing my story in there. So yeah, if your people want to get in touch, and I can send that through when it gets published, which is soon. So I'm quite excited.
Brilliant. Excuse me for a minute. I've been drinking Coke, and Tony wants to know um, how long have you been doing your business now, and difficult? Was it difficult to give up your previous employment?
Well, I got really lucky. Like I said, I had this really, really amazing boss who basically just told me to go home and take some time off sick, which is something that I probably would never have done, to be honest with you, because I'd always been taught, you know, you you go to work no matter what. I mean, obviously people's perceptions have changed around illness with all this COVID stuff, haven't they? But prior to that, it was like you just, you know, carry on into work, and you know, it doesn't matter how ill you're feeling. So actually having some significant time off sick was something I never would have done. But because of this boss, I ended up taking about nearly a year off because my HR department were just not very competent and didn't really know what to do with me. And then they ended up paying me to leave because they were going through a restructure. So I did well out of my last job,
And that's the
even though,
trouble. That's the trouble, Gina, isn't it? When people are got disabilities or illnesses and everything, um, the HR department or your job don't know how to deal with people. You know,
no,
they just so vague, or stigma, or there could be anything. And the trouble is, right? Then they just, and if anything goes wrong, they always blame it on people like yourself or other people, don't they?
yeah, I think there's yeah, a lack of understanding really.
It
And
is,
it
yeah.
really is talking to the person, because everybody, just because they've got a condition doesn't mean to say that they're going to experience it the same way as somebody else. So it really is about talking to the person. And so many companies, in my experience, don't do that. They don't get to know the person. They're not really interested. It's just a number on a book. And, you know, it's there's room for improvement, put it that way.
Yeah. I think they should, you know, learn to kind of like change your attitude. It's all about attitude as well. You see.
Yeah, absolutely. And just because somebody's got a disability doesn't mean to say that, you know, they haven't got a lot to offer. And I think sometimes that could be the case as well. We can't, you know, there's so many. I think when you start, your mobility is challenged and you're not able to do the things that you once were, it feels like doors are shutting around you all over the place. And it's the mindset stuff is around then looking out for the doors that are opening, because there will
Oh
be.
yeah.
Yeah.
Except the other day I had a guest on who had cerebral palsy, and her mum was saying to me that when her daughter was at school with cerebral palsy, the school gave up on her completely, saying that she couldn't do nothing, and and she won't have it. You know, her daughter won't have it, and she got into university, and her dream was to do law,
Wow.
and now she's involved in law, and it's about never giving up and never kind of taking notice of what people can. It's what people's perceptions are. So they look at you and think, oh well, they're not very good and all that lot, but you know,
Yeah.
we're all different, and at the end of the day, we all got our abilities and stuff, haven't we? So
Definitely. I think we've all got our reasons for being here. And I think that the spiritual path is very much of that inward journey to find out what yours is. And it might be a great big one. Oh God, sorry. I've got a new phone and I don't know how to use it. And now it's really loud. Just a second, sorry.
It's okay. Do not worry about it. Do not worry.
I know it should be on silent, but I don't know how to put it on silent.
I'll tell you what. I had worse than this on you. Don't you worry. Okay. Couple more questions, guys. Rob wants to know. Hi, Steve. Would it be possible if we can have Gina back because she's a very inspirational woman? I will. Yeah, I will see. Yeah, I think we will do. Yeah. Um. Um. Trevor wants to know. Steve, is Gina got a book? Because I would love to buy it. She was just telling us earlier she's doing a collaboration with everybody else, but soon it's out, I'll let you know. Um, Richard says, "Oh, that is really inspiration. Thank you very much for sharing this." Yeah, well done. Oh, um,
I'm being interviewed. Live broadcast. Sorry about that.
no, everything happens on live broadcast. Um, Last question. Cindy wants to know, what do you do in your spare time when you're not kind of like doing live broadcasts or doing any of your work? Do you have to spend time for yourself?
Well, yeah, that's quite an interesting question. I do. I love walking my dog, and I walk her usually once, twice a day, depending if it's somebody else wants to walk her as well. But so I get out, and I like to get out in nature, and I like to go and I need to have somebody to go with me these days. But I do like to go wild swimming, so that's one of my things. I like to, get out in.
You've got my favorite. You've got my favorite style of dog one because I love Labradors or
Oh,
golden retrievers. I love them. I love them.
Yeah, she's just beautiful. She's 6 years old, and really through this lockdown, I wouldn't have been without her. Really, it was and I think what having a dog does, it gets you out, and as much as we'll say we'll go out and walk around a field when it's cold and wet and rainy, I wouldn't.
Okay, Gina, thank you very much for joining me.
No, an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. And if anybody wants to contact you, how do they do that?
Well, Facebook is probably the best place. So I'm Gina Dallison. My name's on there. There's not many of me, which is good. I'm also on LinkedIn, and I've also got a website called Manage MS Naturally, and there's a dash between Manage MS and Naturally.com.
Yeah, we'll stick all that on our website, guys, and we will do. I'm getting people saying, "Can you get her back? Can you get her back?" So I'm trying. We will do. We will ask her. Okay, so we will ask Gina. But in the meantime, guys, thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to be back on later on with more guests. So thank you so much for joining me. I'm off now to go to sleep. No, not. Anyway, see you later, Gina. Bye bye.
All right. Thanks so much. Bye bye.